Hello, security pros, and thank you for joining us for today's ESA webinar, Wi-Fi 6 Networking Design, Best Practices, and Remote Management. During this session, we will cover essential topics such as network design, best practices, and configuration tips. We will also discuss how OvrC remote management integrates with a variety of products along with features, benefits, and creating RMR. Beyond Wi-Fi 6, we will touch on IP best practices and the benefits of hardwired solutions for security systems. You'll learn how you can further expand your knowledge of networking to take on more diverse and larger jobs. At the end of the webinar, Snap One will be sharing a special offer for current Snap One partners and any integrators who would like to sign up. Register today to reserve your seat and take advantage of this opportunity to learn from industry experts and improve your network skills. I'm Daniela Chavez, ESA's Marketing and Communication Specialist, and I'm excited to lead this webinar today. But before we dive in, I'd like to provide some tips for those of you joining us on your first ESA webinar. You will be muted during the duration of this session, but that doesn't mean that we don't want to hear from you. If a question or comment comes to mind at any point during today's session, click the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen, and I'll ensure that we save some time for your questions with our experts today. We also will be recording this webinar so you can re-watch the on-demand session and share it with your colleagues. If your company is a member of ESA, we thank you and we hope you're utilizing your benefits to save, expand your team, and get connected to the ESA community. If you're not yet a member of the Electronic Security Association, check us out. ESA is the largest and longest standing association serving the pro-installed electronic security and life safety industry. Our members are integrators, dealers, monitoring centers, and even manufacturers and service providers in the space. You'd be surprised at the power an ESA membership holds for your company and get a feel for all the ESA benefits, including savings on business insurance, training, customized in-house onboarding, and professional development programs, as well as peer networking groups, government advocacy programs, certifications that satisfy state licensing, and in some cases are also alternatives to NICET at esaweb.org. One of our membership specialists would be happy to walk you through these benefits and the application process. We at ESA realize your time is valuable and we appreciate you spending some of that time with us today. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Nathan Holmes. Nathan is a longtime industry veteran. He is the Senior Manager of Training for Snap One Education. With over 20 years of experience, Holmes has been both on the AV integration and manufacturer side of the business and has managed some of the most highly awarded companies in the residential integration industry, bringing a deep knowledge from both perspectives. He is the chair of the CEDIA Technical Education Working Group and also a well-respected member of the CEDIA Technology Council, having been heavily involved with education initiatives for over 15 years. So, without further ado, Nathan, please take it away.
Thank you very much. I don't know if I can follow that. That was well done. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on our chance to go through some of the Wi-Fi 6 networking design, best practice, and remote management concepts. As she said, my name is Nathan Holmes, and she gave all the wonderful credentials that I've been a part of. More than anything, I really want to thank everybody for being here. I'm a big believer in the more knowledge we get, the better we can help the industry grow and be, basically empowered to be the experts that our customers expect us to be. So I really appreciate you taking the time, and hopefully you will find it helpful. And we will definitely leave some time at the end if there happens to be any questions. So please don't hesitate to ask. Overall, the number of products and systems that are available for the connected home increases almost daily. From HVAC to lighting control, from entertainment solutions to security and surveillance system, the list goes on. And all of these products depend on the home network to communicate. The better you design the network, the better the experience your homeowner is going to have. So this is what we're going to talk about today. We'll do so by covering three specific topics. We're going to dive into some basic network design philosophies. We'll talk about what Wi-Fi 6 is, why we need it, and what Wi-Fi 6 products Snap One makes. And then we'll finish with a discussion around RMR and how our OvrC platform can help you increase your profitability. Now, we do have a lot to cover today, but as I said before, please throw the questions in the chat and I have my partner Bobby who's kind of monitoring the chat. If he can answer the questions right then and there, he will. If not, we will definitely take care of him at the end. Okay, so let's get started. When you choose to propose a network solution for your customer, they are depending on you to provide them the appropriate digital backbone for their connected lifestyle. The key to doing this is to effectively understand your client's needs. How are they going to use the network and the needs of the electronics that you plan to provide them, including the security system and any electronics they're bringing with them that are going to use that network. You have to consider all of these things because they all depend on the network to function correctly. So to begin with, I want to talk about discussing some of the basic principles of network design. And some of these things may be very rudimentary for everybody. I understand we're all at different levels, but it's important that we go through and talk about some of the fundamentals before we go past this so you can see why the characteristics that you can propose are so important. So internet service providers will typically supply their customers with an all-in-one appliance, which it includes all of the networking components needed to allow them to connect their Wi-Fi devices to the internet. It's pretty straightforward. And included in this all-in-one appliance is a multitude of individual components. It includes an access point, it includes a network switch, includes a router, a firewall, and a modem. Now, all of these are needed, and this all-in-one solution is great for the ISP and many homeowners, but it's not a good solution for a security professional. And we'll talk about why. Let's begin with a brief overview of each of these components moves data through a network. So let's say your customer has a smartphone and they're trying to watch a video on the internet. Okay, the smartphone communicates over Wi-Fi to an access point. An access point is a device that bridges wireless Ethernet communication to hardwired Ethernet communication. The access point then sends this communication to the network switch over Ethernet. A network switch is a device that forwards hardwired Ethernet communication between multiple devices. This switch then does its job and forwards that information to the router. A router is a device that allows network devices on different networks to communicate to each other. The router then sends that communication through the firewall. A firewall is either an appliance or a software application that determines which traffic is allowed to enter or exit a particular network. So after the communication is approved by the firewall, it is then forwarded to the modem. A modem is really just a media converting device that is used to convert the Ethernet communication into the internet service provider's type of communication, usually over coaxial or fiber technology. Each of these devices has a very specific task, and as the number of devices that use the network increases and the variety of these devices increases, then you need to start considering how you upgrade the quality of each of these components in the network, because the various components can definitely change the features and the supportability of the network. I think you can begin to see why a security professional needs to specify quality networking products and design each network to be purpose-built for each of their customers' needs. Now, before we talk about how to choose the right products for each project, let's talk about, there's a basic principle that I get asked about all the time that I want to get out of the way, because it is a fundamental thing to be included in all of your design. All devices, if possible, should be connected via Ethernet cabling. The more devices connect via Ethernet, the better your network perform. Ethernet is a technology of convenience, Wi-Fi is a technology of convenience, whereas Ethernet cabling is a technology of performance. This is an important thing to understand because we're trying to put a network in that's based on performance for our customers. And Wi-Fi, it's convenient, but it has some things in it that doesn't lend it to being super high performance. Let me give you an example of why. Imagine you're in a classroom and it's a respectful classroom. So either the teacher is talking or one student is answering a question. In that environment, only one person is talking at a time, and therefore everyone is easily understood. If all of the students were talking to each other or yelling or screaming or just basically ignoring the teacher, then the teacher could not effectively have a conversation with even one student because they wouldn't be able to hear each other well because of all the noise going around them. Wi-Fi networks operate in the same way as this respectful classroom where only one device can transmit at a time. That way the communication is not interrupted by other devices, that are broadcasting in the same area. In contrast, if all devices connected to Ethernet cabling can communicate whenever they want, no waiting for other devices because it's a dedicated communication connection. So this is especially poignant when you're talking about connecting devices which are constantly sending data, like say security cameras, which are continually streaming their video feed. If connected via Wi-Fi, this could significantly affect the performance of the wireless network because the camera is trying to constantly send data and only one device can broadcast at a time. So if you have a lot of Wi-Fi devices, one, they either won't be able to connect, or two, you could easily have buffering or missing video arriving when you're connecting it via Wi-Fi. IP cameras are always recommended to be hardwired via Ethernet or fiber cabling. Okay, I wanted to get that out of the way because it's a really important concept when you're designing a network to keep in mind that everything should be hardwired if at all possible. But just knowing that everything should be hardwired, how do you then determine, okay, let's start looking at this. How do I choose the right switches to know what to connect the Ethernet cable to? How do you select the right quantity or types of access points that I need? How do I select the router, or firewall to ensure that it's going to meet my client's expectations for performance and security concerns? How do I really start that? For example, even within, which product line do you use? Because within Snap One themselves, we have two different product lines. We have the Arachnus professional grade product line and the Access Networks enterprise grade product line, both of which have different feature sets and capabilities. So where do you start? Well, the funny part is you don't start by looking at the hardware. What you actually have to understand is the network should be designed to support the people and the products that will use it, and it should be tailored to the environment it will be installed within. So the reality is, to design a network, everything starts with a great client needs analysis and then a project requirements checklist. Take, for example, is your customer single or do they have kids? Do their kids need seamless Wi-Fi for maybe streaming or maybe TikTok or something and Wi-Fi calling? Or are they gamers? So they need super low latency to ensure that, man, they can just dominate everybody that they're playing against. Or let me ask a question, is the client a day trader that needs high availability and redundancy? Or maybe they like to entertain, so your customer needs access points that can support a lot of guests. Or what if it's just an elderly couple that they just need to get to some email or maybe FaceTime with the grandkids. They don't have a lot of demand on the network. These are very different situations that all require very different network hardware. So performing a good client needs analysis involves asking your customer a lot of questions about who will be using the network, what devices will be using the network, and how they expect the expectation to go. How are they going to be, does it need to be on 24/7 with no downtime, or it's not a big deal, we just want to connect now and then? They're very different expectations, and you need to work hard to figure out what your client is expecting so that you know how to meet and exceed their expectation. When it comes to hardware selections, especially on network switches, it's no longer as simple as saying, I just need this many ports and a router and just any old access point will do. No, think about this. Going back to the IP camera scenario, they are constantly sending data across the network. And as resolutions increase, so does the associated bandwidth. I mean, if you're using a control system, you have to ensure super low latency to provide a good experience. I mean, when your customer hits mute, it needs to mute before your finger leaves that mute button, right? You can't leave it and then wait and wait and wait and then have mute happen. So it's got to be really low latency. And devices are also now using multi-gigabit speeds. For example, Wi-Fi 6 APs may require 2.5 gig Ethernet ports, along with higher PoE needs. You've got video over IP solutions that leverage multicast and can go up to 10 gig connections. Plus, they require specific switches and designs to ensure their performance. Overall, it's super important to identify all devices that will be using the network, how each of those devices will go ahead and use network resources, and how they will interact with other devices on the network. This will help you determine if a professional grade solution will work or if you need to have an enterprise grade product. What level product, what types of ports, what speeds, all those things have to go into consideration of your switches, and it's really based on what products are going to use the network and the expectation of the customer. When you get into designing the router and firewall selection, ask yourself, does your customer have or need, multiple ISP connections? Or are those ISP connections multi-gig? And we've got up to 10 gig connections on ISPs now. So you have to ensure that you have a router or firewall appliance that can support that speed capability. Are they security conscious where they need a next generation firewall service, which has features like stateful inspection and active threat detection to really protect them? Maybe they're a CEO or something, and so they've got some real security concerns. Or, and what type of VPN access do you need? There are multiple types, multiple levels, and various considerations on security with both. And does the project need the low latency benefits that you would achieve from using a, say a layer 3 core switch for routing as opposed to a standalone router? There are different solutions when it comes to routing based on how extensive the network is and how low latency that you need to have. Using layer 3 core switch can give you wire speed routing at every port level. So these are all solutions to consider on the router side. Now, when it comes to access points, some things are pretty basic, meaning will round access points complement the installation better, or would rectangular access points be better? Sounds funny, but that's really important to a lot of customers, is the shape of the access point that's going to be on their ceiling. What about outdoor access points? Does your client just need a little bit of Wi-Fi on the patio that can come from inside, or do we need to have outdoor APs that provide, seamless Wi-Fi calling on multi-acres of the property? You can do it all, just have to choose the right APs. When it comes to, being able to install things efficiently, all of our access points include the hardware you need to really streamline your installation process. And in addition, we also leverage our OvrC platform to allow you to have, a streamlined configuration process. It provides remote interaction with your devices. We're going to go into this a little bit, but by leveraging OvrC, this is a way to choose our access points over other solutions out there because they provide so much more efficiency during configuration, troubleshooting, and support. Now, between the two different product lines we have, Access Networks APs have been, purpose-built for installations where maybe you've got some high interference or more difficult materials that can interfere with Wi-Fi. So they have patented technologies like BeamFlex and BeamFlex Plus, which will focus the RF energy from the access point to the individual client device that it's talking to. If you have a basic or more simple construction, boom, Arachnus is great. But when you run into these situations where you have some more difficult things to overcome, then use an access point that can help improve the client experience through the technology it has. The last thing you definitely want to consider is, the quantity and types of devices. As you get into newer devices, they're going to use newer standards. All new devices coming out nowadays are Wi-Fi 6. So you have to put in a Wi-Fi 6 AP. How are you going to support the new standard and the newest devices if your access points don't support it? It's very important to consider this Again, it's based on the client devices that are going to use the network. In fact, that ties us in great to our next topic. We've talked about some of the basics of network design, but let's talk about what's most important to our customers. The reality is it's all about Wi-Fi, and both the Arachnus and Access Networks products line support Wi-Fi 6. Before we dive into the features though, I want to talk about the name, because the names for Wi-Fi have changed over the last few years and a lot of people don't really understand why. So some of you may have heard of 802.11ax. Okay, and we're here today to talk about Wi-Fi 6. But I do get asked constantly, are they different? Are they the same? What is it? So Wi-Fi 6 is just a different name for the IEEE standard of 802.11ax. It was felt that customers were having a really difficult time understanding the difference between A, B, G, N, AC, AX, and all these numbers. It was just too much. So they started naming it with what's called generational Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi 6 is the 6th generation of Wi-Fi, and it's designed just to be easier understood by customers. So if somebody comes to you and says, oh yeah, I'm using this new product and it uses 802.11ax, great. That is Wi-Fi 6. Our access points are capable of it. We're more than happy to support it. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. So simple understanding, Wi-Fi 6 is just a different name for 802.11ax. All right, but what does that really mean? What is so special about this new standard that they have literally been talking about? It's a fundamental rewrite from the ground up of Wi-Fi. Well, we could probably spend an hour just on Wi-Fi 6, but I want to touch on some of the key points. Wi-Fi 6 is the second wireless standard to be dual band. It is both 2.4 and 5 gig. In fact, it is the first upgrade to 2.4 since 2009. So anybody who's using a previous generation access point, if you're connecting on 2.4, man, your technology is at least 14 years old. So we definitely want to get people into the current technology, and this does it by being able to be both dual band on 2.4 and 5 gig. Now, this is a more technical side of things, but Wi-Fi 6 incorporates something called OFDMA, orthogonal frequency divisional multiple access. This is technology used in the cellular world to really provide a lot of efficiencies by shortening decreasing the amount of bandwidth you need for each transmission, the amount of subcarrier channels you use. It helps save battery life. It helps devices communicate more quickly. And it has the potential to allow us for the very first time to have multiple client devices communicating to an AP at the same time. It's likely only going to happen in high density things like airports, maybe stadiums, but the potential exists. Older technologies like multi-user MIMO, which work good in a lab, didn't work in real life. Client devices didn't support them. So it was really just this paper feature that didn't mean anything. So this offers a chance for us to actually have multiple device communications if it makes sense. The access point, though, has to choose whether it's using OFDM, single user OFDMA, or multi-user OFDMA. So there's a lot more thought process going on in the access point on how it's communicating to client devices. So you're going to see a lot more processing power in APs. They're going to start needing more PoE power to do these types of things. So the APs are getting more robust because the technologies in them are getting more diverse. Something else that's included with Wi-Fi 6 that's so cool is something called target wait times, which allows client devices to tell the AP, hey man, why don't you give me a schedule of when to wake up and transmit, and I'm going to sleep the rest of the time. So the AP can schedule out all the devices connected that can use target wait times, allowing them to sleep most of the time and just wake up to transmit and receive, which can give them up to a 67% increase in battery life. And I don't know about you, but I can always use more battery life on my devices. The next thing that I think is super cool is something called SSID coloring. And this is something that should help us, especially in our high density areas like MDUs or communities where we have a lot of houses next to each other. The idea is this: if two different access points are using the same channels, like you're on channel 1 and your neighbor's on channel 1, or two access points in the same house on channel 1, when this happens, a client device has to wait till nobody is using that channel, whether it's connected to the same access point or a different access point. So the key with SSID coloring is to say, you know what? Let's add a little header bit to the access point communication between its client devices. So now you only have to wait for client devices connected to the same access point. If there's a client device using the same frequency, but it happens to be on a different access point, like, you know what, you go ahead and transmit. We're transmitting different APs. We're not really going to interfere with each other enough to be significant. So it should really decrease latency, especially in things like MDU or communities that are tied together. It's really cool about just a feature that's going to really help make Wi-Fi more efficient, especially when devices are on the same channel. Okay, those are some of the really cool things that make it high efficiency, but what's everybody want to know? How fast am I going to go? How much more speed am I going to get with Wi-Fi 6? Well, you will get some. You get about 40% more. Now, previous standards might have given you 10 times the speed with each new standard. Wi-Fi 6 is more about creating efficiency and laying the groundwork for future Wi-Fi standards. So it is capable of 9.6 gig by the standard, but most of your devices today, based on their configurations, are going to get about 1.2 gig connections. And that correlates to about a 400 meg throughput. So if your devices from your homeowner are getting around 400 meg throughput, you are doing great. That is a phenomenal connection. So keep that in mind. About 1/3 of your connection rate, and your fastest connection rates for most devices are about 1.2 gig. Now, going to higher Ethernet or higher speeds on Wi-Fi means we need higher Ethernet port speeds. Man, if I got almost 10 gig capability on my Wi-Fi connection rate, then I'm going to need up to what? Yep, up to possibly 10 gig on my access points. So you're going to see access points coming out in this generation that are running, 2.5, 5, and 10 gig Ethernet ports, because they need that to be able to support the speeds that Wi-Fi is capable of, depending on the features that each access point has. So make sure you look at the Ethernet port speed when you're specifying a switch. Additionally, because these APs now have higher processing power, higher port speeds, more power, all of those things happening, guess what? They need more PoE power from the switch as well. So we definitely need to consider, hey man, is this access point PoE, PoE plus, PoE plus plus? And you need to make sure you allocate the full power for that device on each port. So new switches, new speeds, new PoE plus, for new power, all these things tie in together with the new standard, which it is producing high efficiency. It's got a lot of new little features to do that, including a little bit faster data rates, but we need some faster Ethernet connectivity, so we're going to need faster switches. I know it's a lot of information and a lot of new technologies, and it's not necessary to remember all of it. The big takeaway is that most new devices will support Wi-Fi 6, therefore you need to specify Wi-Fi 6 capable APs in all of your Wi-Fi installations. As I mentioned earlier, we make two different lines, Arachnus and Access Networks. So I wanted to take a few minutes to walk through the access points available to each of those lines as we're talking about Wi-Fi. So Arachnus networks have typically, they've been known throughout the industry as a great place to start. They're professional grade products. They have the highly requested round form factor. They are, have the industry's the industry's best configuration experience with OvrC integration. And each AP also includes all the mounting plates, associated hardware, plus client requested features like, concealment points for, Ethernet cabling. All of those things are done because our integrator partners have asked them. It's always been an industry, best when it comes to value, price point, profitability for integrators, and it includes a 2-year warranty. It's great. When you look at the models we have available, we have 2 indoor models, the 520, which is a 2x2 access point, and the 820, which is 4x4. And then we have 1 outdoor model, the N520. You can tell the indoor models with the -I at the end, the outdoor model with the -O. I'm going to show this quickly, and then I'll show you a link a little while where you can pull up this information to take time reviewing it. But overall, the 520 is a 2x2. One of the big things is it's now increased its concurrent users up to 254. And that means how many conversations can the access point be having with authenticated devices and devices trying to authenticate? Keep in mind, if you've got 100 guests in your backyard and you've got, 3 dual band SSIDs. If those guests aren't authenticated, man, that's 600 requests to join. Can I join? No. Can I address? No. Can I join? No. No, no. So the access point is spending all this time to 600 requests saying no. It's kind of hard to say yes to maybe the few devices that are connected. Now, if all of those guests were actually connected to the AP and authenticated, then that's only 100 conversations when they decide to go. So definitely a consideration when, installing your networks. Having a guest network will decrease the amount of devices trying to join the network once they get authenticated. So either way, concurrent users is at value, and you see the entire line has been increased now to have 254 concurrent users. OvrC is native on all the Wi-Fi 6 access points in the Arachnus line. And as you can see, the interior APs are designed to be mounted on the ceiling dome down, and the outdoor AP is actually designed to be mounted on the wall. And kind of a really cool feature, it even includes a PoE out port if, let's say, you want to power a PoE camera outside right at the access point installation. To use the PoE out, obviously you're going to have to connect it to a switch that can provide the AP with PoE++ power, because it's got to power itself and the PoE out port. But it's a really cool feature when you have a limited amount of cabling. So really, really cool access point. Now, we talked about access networks is definitely where to go when specifying deployment that has a high density of client devices or unique construction or interference obstacles, or basically the client just needs higher performance. They've become the proven choice over a number of years of being in the industry. And the reason they've done that is, look, they've got more models to choose from when specifying. They've got a dedicated enterprise-grade wireless controller that runs inside the AP that will literally actively manage the environment and make changes based on what it monitors. They've got BeamFlex and BeamFlex Plus, which I'm going to give you a brief description in a second, but these are patented technologies that they have that nobody else has. They also put things out there like SmartCast and Mesh and all these things to really help improve client capability, client connection and the experience on Wi-Fi, along with providing solutions to overcome the obstacles that you may have. They come with a 4-year warranty, and guess what? They're super easy to configure through OvrC as well. It's one of the reasons we have them in the line. Now, to cover it quickly, BeamFlex Plus is a technology that will focus the RF energy from that access point straight to one client device. So remember, the access point can only talk to one client. So how cool is it they can focus all the RF energy that one client device is talking to? And on a packet by packet basis, it sends it in every direction each, like points on a compass. And I'll show you in the specs, there's some models with 64 patterns per band, some with 4,096. But even if it's got 64 patterns, that's still 63 more than anybody else that's just broadcasting omnidirectionally. So it really can provide a great experience for your customers' client devices. You get the increased gain of up to 6 dB gain and up to 15 dB less interference on the other areas where it's not transmitting. So it really cleans up the wireless environment as well. BeamFlex Plus, let me show you how that works. We've got multiple adaptive antennas. So like a central antenna element with pattern shapers around it. And through software, what it does is it turns on the pattern shaper it needs to focus that RF energy to that single client device it's talking to. Really cool. I think this kind of shows that points on a compass type of mentality. BeamFlex Plus is the other thing we were talking about, which Wi-Fi is polarized. So when your device, when the antenna is in alignment with the polarity of the Wi-Fi, great, you get good signal. But if you go and just lay that device down and you're out of polarity, you don't get as good of signal. That's the way RF energy works. So within these access points, we've got both horizontal and vertical polarization to the antennas. So we're transmitting on both axes and then combining it back together at the client device through diversity. So this gives you massive benefit when you have a mobile device moving through the environment, because it's always in better alignment with one polarization over the other, and it always combines them both back together like an error correction. So it really increases the stability of performance for mobile devices when moving through an environment. Overall, like I said, we have, in the access networks line, we have multiple options. We have 4 different interior versions, 1 outdoor version. When we look at the chart of these things, most of your characteristics are the same things you've seen before, whether it's a 2x2, meaning 2 spatial stream access point, up to a 4x4. You'll notice the concurrent users start off at the entry level at 256 and go all the way up to 1,024 on the A750. It is a flagship AP. Not only does that, it also does 4,096 antenna patterns. You can really focus that RF energy into the client devices and give a much better signal noise ratio. Really, really, really great access point. As with the Arachnus line, you can see some of your Ethernet ports are going up to 2.5 gig. And we have an outdoor access point that complements what we're doing on the indoor as well. I know that was fairly quick and a lot of information rapidly. Like I said, we probably could have gone on for a couple hours and we just don't have the time today. But I wanted to throw these QR codes up there real quick. These will take you right to those charts that I put up, one for Access Networks and one for Arachnus. Feel free to go there, dive into it, and then hopefully that'll answer most of your questions. Okay, let's change directions a little bit. How do you increase profitability without raising prices if the cost of products sold remains the same? So we're selling things for the same price, but how do we increase profitability? Well, I think it's really all the above. If we can decrease installation time, decrease troubleshooting time, empower our customers to self-help, we've just decreased the amount of time we've got invested in a project, but we made the same amount of money. What are we talking about? We're talking about creating efficiencies. And the way we typically do that, well, we all want to make more money, but let's do it by using OvrC. OvrC is a free, you like that word, free, I love free, cloud-based remote management and monitoring platform. It was designed by us and it's exclusively for professionals. All right, there are desktop and mobile apps which can both be used. They drive business efficiencies. And I've been using this thing for years. It really helps empower your teams and your ability to support your customers remotely. This will streamline your setup and configuration times. You can, not only do we have things like a Wi-Fi management platform in there, along with site survey tools, but you don't have to have your highest level technician out there doing the installation. You can have a more junior technician or somebody who's coming up to the line be able to install your access points, install the switches, make the physical connections, and then have somebody who's off-site, who's more of your key person, be able to remotely configure everything. Or if you're doing it in the office, even better, you can do it all there. It allows for faster remote troubleshooting. Our products that we make that are OvrC enabled give you simple, quick access into the most requested and most desired capabilities of those products to be able to show what's going on, why am I having issue, do I need a firmware update, do I need to do a soft reboot, do I need to do a hard reboot, all the different things that you might have to do as a technician from a remote standpoint. We make sure that all of our OvrC embedded products, we incorporate as much of the characteristics for that product as we can in OvrC, so you're coming to one stop to do it all. This scalable side of central management streamlines your process, gives your technicians really good familiarity with a single pane of glass, a single portal to go to do all these things. And on top of that, how about if you can empower your customer? I don't know about you, but I don't want to be the guy who, oh yeah, Junior failed his test. Can you turn off his Wi-Fi? I don't want to have to go do that. Or, man, our kids are getting older. We think we want to, we need to put some content protection in so that we know where they're going. Again, great idea, but I don't want my technician to be liable if the kid finds a workaround. So we have client-facing apps that allow them to pause devices and do content protection or filtering for their children, along with being able to give them custom commands where they can reboot or fix things themselves. And this is where you can be really great as an integrator. Do you give them a button that says, okay, this will power cycle and reset this device? Or maybe you get a button that says, fix Blu-ray player, fix Apple TV, and that does everything for them. But you can help them live with technology in a way that complements them by using these client-facing apps and tools to really empower them. And we also have something called OvrC Pro, which then extends your visibility past our products onto the entire network of IP products, which, look, there's more than just our products on the network, and you want to be able to identify how they're doing. Are they online? Can you interact with them remotely? We could give you through Web Connect, you could remotely configure the product, that has features a lifetime license. There's no recurring fees, and You're already implementing OvrC in your jobs. So this just is a way to actually maximize your profits and be able to provide more than just interaction with our products, but products, across the industry. And that ties us into the whole RMR conversation. This is a big portion of what every integration firm, and especially, we've got a lot of security professionals on today who understand the benefit of RMR. And we have customers who like to have different package options. So we wanted to throw this in today to kind of throw, some hypothetical packages where you could model your service offerings around if you are doing your, RMR. Things like having a bronze level, which is a basic service level where you collect a monthly service fee, you make your team available for phone and email support, but this would be solely servicing inbound service requests. The customer would still have to reach out to you, make a request, you try to do it on phone, if not, roll a truck. You go up to like a silver level, and this is where you would implement OvrC enabled products, like our products that have OvrC native in them. And that gives us a lot more ability or visibility and troubleshooting capabilities of those products. The plan offers some proactive and reactive service. OvrC is set up to automatically reboot if a system goes offline and create alerts if a device goes offline, thus notifying us or fixing things for a customer. If your customer is experiencing less than optimal performance, sometimes these automatic reboots can do anything without you even having to be involved. Plus, you can use OvrC to view a customer system and troubleshoot without rolling a truck. And a lot of people, a lot of companies may even include a free site visit if the problem wasn't able to be solved remotely. But either way, you can see how we've increased from bronze to silver. Gold, man, this example would include OvrC Pro, and then all of the elements to silver. Plus, with OvrC Pro, now you can actually monitor other devices that are not OvrC enabled, so everything on the network. So it expands your remote view to other third-party devices. It also, lets your integrator create client-facing OvrC accounts so they can go in and troubleshoot on your own. You've got to have the hub to be able to do that. So this is great for small to medium businesses or companies that have some specific tech support. Again, you can see how we've increased what the customer receives, the overall comprehensive view, and a little bit more per month. When we get to a premium type of package, man, this is where we give them everything that's in gold. Plus, we had something called our Parasol support, which, this handles inbound calls and does the remote troubleshooting on your behalf. So Parasol does require an additional subscription on your side, but it frees you up to let a professional third-party company handle a majority of your service needs. Parasol is a Snap One company, and it can be trusted to troubleshoot our products. So this just gives you that upper level of concierge level white glove support you can do for your customers, and you get to charge a little bit more for it because it is a higher end service. Overall, these are just suggestions. Each of you will come up with your own scenarios and ways to leverage this for your businesses, but we get asked a lot, so we wanted to throw some possible scenarios out there for you. So let me tie this in and kind of bring it home. We talked about our products. We've got both Arachnus and Access Networks products, and they both have Wi-Fi 6. To configure and manage those products, we offer online setup and management tools. OvrC is where it's at, and this is all designed to increase your profit and help add to your RMR capabilities. But what if you could get access points, or frankly, all the way up to an entire network already configured for you so they're ready to deploy right out of the box? Or what if you have a really difficult project and need help with the design to make sure that you can meet the expectations of the client and the needs of the project? Well, that's where managed services come in. Products, setup and management tools, and even managed services. We are the only company that has all three of these tied together. And what I mean by managed services is we have things like Core, which is a custom, bespoke, wired and wireless network solution purposely designed for this house, your project. Our design team will gather information and specifically help you with the design. They will produce a bespoke design that's best suited for that environment, those devices, that customer. It includes 4 years of included support, includes Access Networks live monitoring, remote, reactive or proactive support, so they'll get notifications and sometimes fix problems before you do. You've got a next generation firewall, with active services, all of these things included in a full network that will probably surprise you of how reasonably priced it is. If you're not looking for a full network design, but you do want a cloud-based Wi-Fi solution, guess what? We also have that within managed services. Or maybe you just want to have things show up and remove the possibility for human error. I'm a technician, or have been in the past, that there was times I would be in the field and I'll come back to that later, or we just don't have time today. And you skip something and forget it, you don't go back, and all of a sudden years later, oh man, that's what I should have done. So things like basic configuration services allow you to order our products fully configured, ready to deploy, and therefore you can eliminate the possibility for human error, and it's at a really, really reasonable cost. So definitely managed solutions are worth looking at as you continue to try to increase your profitability. All right, so we did a lot of things to talk about here today. I want to kind of bring it down to the end with, we continually put more events and webinars and all sorts of things on across all of the different products that we carry within the company. And snap1events.com will lead you to local training events that are happening at each of our in-person branches. There are links straight to our Snap One education programs where you've got full course training, it's led to tech and customer support, introduction videos, everything you need there. You'll have, like I said, in the local branches, we'll do different trainings each quarter that are specific to our products, and they're hands-on, technical. You get in to the products, can ask deep questions. And then we also do webinars, and we archive them. For example, we've done a lot of Wi-Fi 6 webinars this quarter, and that are stored in the archive on snap1events.com, which will go even much deeper than I went today, including into best practices for Wi-Fi design and things like that. So please, as a Snap One partner, I recommend going to snap1events.com and start looking there at some of the really cool educational offerings we have there. To tie it up at the end, I really want to thank everyone for being here. And look, we're not shy. We'll actually pay you to be here, in the sense of everyone who's here. If you're a new partner, you can receive $500 towards your first purchase. Sign up and explore projects, view pricing, get a discount on your first project or first product purchase. It's awesome. If you're an existing partner, we'll give you 10% off Arachnus and Access Networks products. We really want to appreciate you coming today to the webinar. Make sure to call or email your sales rep and get your discounts while they're live. And again, thank you. And we did leave a little bit of time for questions. So let's, Bobby, you can feel free to chime in and tell me what we got.
All right, Nathan, this is a very lively group today.
Good.
Been typing like crazy here. So we could start with Stephen Woods. He had a question about the new 520 and 220 routers, which supports 2.5 gigabits per second. And one of the answers I gave him was that it was a great comment and question. As the new routers are more mainstream with the current ISPs, the 10 gigabits per second from the ISP is going to be more expensive. And also the routers for 10 gigabits are priced higher than what the current market's willing to support. Is there something else you can add to that, Nathan?
Yeah, I mean, look, everything, why am I only stopping here? Why am I going to 25 gig or 40 gig? Because they exist. It is a great question, but the reality is that most of the connections that are coming out over the next, 12 months or so, or even later, are going to be maxed out at 2.5. There are some limited communities that go up into 10 gig. And remember, we have two product lines. We have the Arachnus product line and Access Networks. And within Access Networks, we have solutions that can go all the way up to 10 gig right now. So we do support, higher speeds when it comes to the, routing side of things. And we will continue to expand our product lines as we move forward. One of the biggest things we did with all of the things coming out in this generation of Arachnus products, from access points to routers to the new switches that'll be coming out, is we went and really acknowledged any of the pain points that our dealer partners had, and worked very diligently to create a more robust and powerful foundation to the product lines to be able to ensure that not only did the features increase in the sense of speeds and capabilities, but the robustness and the stability of the products has also been increased as well, to ensure that we're elevating the experience across the boards.
Awesome. I have another question from Dean. Should we look at Wi-Fi 7 since Ruckus is planning on rolling out in the year 2025?
Great question, Dean. The reality is Wi-Fi 7 will be coming out at some point. The end of the day, there are a number of things. The standard's not even ratified. We're a couple years away from ratification on Wi-Fi 7. The early adopters will be guessing and hoping that they get it right and be able to come back later on and say, oh, sorry, we thought the best we could. But a lot of it is bleeding edge, which we never want to put our customers in a place where it's bleeding edge and full of problems and things. Wi-Fi 7 will incorporate the 6 gig spectrum, which we know is included in the 6E, but there's a whole bunch of things that hasn't been worked out yet with the 6E, the 6 gig spectrum. Like there's no outdoor access points that can support 6 gig because they have to meet something called an AFC coordination test, and no manufacturer has been able to have AFC up and running at a point to be able to reuse outdoor APs. So until we can get even the 6 gig platform working in 6E, Wi-Fi 7 is still vaporware in a lot of different ways from a hardware standpoint. The reality is, you're right. Every manufacturer, when COVID hit, because you're looking at 3 to 5 year development plans, said, you know what? We want to kind of slow down any future development of Wi-Fi 6/6E products and go right on to development of Wi-Fi 7. Our product managers and engineering teams are staying on top of this. They're very aware of where everything is at, both from a Wi-Fi 7 standpoint to Wi-Fi 6E. If Wi-Fi 7 ends up being a long ways out and we need to come out with 6E products, we are poised to do so rapidly if need be. But eventually Wi-Fi 7 will be out. And like always, every 3 to 5 years, you're replacing and upgrading your Wi-Fi because the standards have changed. Not because you have to, but most of the time because you want to, and it supports new devices. So 2025, yeah, you're right at that mark. So it'll be time to upgrade anyways to the new standard, which is when we'll start seeing a lot more Wi-Fi 7 products.
Perfect. And Victor had a great question. He actually clarified a question. It's about Wi-Fi 6 endpoints, meaning legacy devices. If you have a legacy device and you have new devices that support Wi-Fi 6, will the legacy devices drag down the access point to the previous generation of Wi-Fi?
So great question, Victor. All Wi-Fi communication between an access point and a client device is individual to that client device. So if I'm communicating to a Wi-Fi 6 device, I'd communicate on Wi-Fi 6. If I'm communicating to Wi-Fi 5, Wi-Fi 5, Wi-Fi 4, Wi-Fi 4, so on and so forth. It's a per device communication. It doesn't necessarily drag down the entire access point. What it does do, though, is if you've got 50 devices and 2 of them are Wi-Fi 6, well, most of the features and benefits that are high efficiency, like target wait times and SSID calling and all those things, would only affect Wi-Fi 6 devices. So as you get more and more Wi-Fi 6 devices using the network, these aspects of creating efficiency will become more and more relevant and provide a much more efficient environment as more devices become modern. But no, it doesn't mean that a new device is going to work at an older standard, although Wi-Fi is dynamic, so you do have to be closer to the access point to achieve your higher data rates that you need with Wi-Fi 6 because of the requirements of the standard. So hope that answered the question.
Perfect. And I have a question from Brian. He's interested to see if the new 520 series access points will be an on-wall solution.
As of now, there's no plan to make an on-wall AP. It is, they've thankfully gone back to only specifying the on-ceiling dome-down APs that the rest of the industry has done. Most on-wall APs are a niche product designed for hospitality. There are some solutions out there which we can get you with, and we do support some of those in our core networks. But as of right now, I have not heard of any plans on a wall-mounted version of the 520.
Awesome. Yeah, I was going to ask you to put on your development manager hat when you were going to answer that question. That's completely my fault. Scott has a great question. He loves the access network's access points performance. For residential, the mounting is a lot tougher than Arachnus. Is there a mount I can and buy that I'm missing?
So it was funny. I was talking to a dealer yesterday about this. One, if you don't know, the screw holes in the back of the AP line right up to a single gang mud ring. So throw a single gang mud ring, clip it on, you're done. It's that easy. The flip side says, because the dealer partner was right. He goes, well, yeah, but the way you have to bend the cable to go in and everything, it makes it a little more difficult. One of the things we used to do is we terminated all of our cables, even on the ceiling APs, with a keystone. And while my techs were terminating, we tested every single cable, so we knew we'd certified every cable at the time of termination, so you didn't have to climb up and down the ladders. Bing, bing, bing. Punch down, test, punch down, test. And when we came in and installed the APs, I used to put little 1 foot, really flexible Cat 6A patch cords in. I picked them, I think I'd buy them in bulk, and they were like $1 each. And just buying that patch cord allowed it to streamline our installation process. So it was super easy to put the APs on the ceiling. Didn't have to worry about bending the cable. My guys were able to certify it. Just made the whole process much more stable and streamlined, and seemed to give us a lot less trouble calls.
Perfect. And Will had a great question. Can you add content filters for certain devices, or is it only network wide?
The content filters are placed into the firewall, so it's going to be network wide. I honestly don't know if you can do it per VLAN. That's a question we could probably ask one of the sales engineers. I don't know that off the top of my head. One of the things I've done in the past for many customers where they wanted to use, let's say, the ISP's interface to be able to configure, what content they were doing, anything. I would have them run a dual ISP. We'd run one ISP feed for the children that they could put all their content protection on, put that on a separate VLAN, run a separate ISP for the homeowner that didn't have content filtering, and that way you could, in a way, separate which devices are filtered and which ones weren't.
Perfect. Anthony would like you to show the last page again on your presentation, if you don't mind.
I wish I knew which last page that was. Was it just the core networks, the Snap One events? Hopefully, I don't know. If you can type in chat which page you want, Anthony, I'm more than happy to throw it up. We got a couple minutes left.
All right, and then Stephen would like you to just peek behind the curtain on our new Arachnus switches. So he would like to know if the new switches will come with SFP plus ports.
So here's the fun part, and you're gonna not really like my answer on this. One of the things within a public company we have to be careful of is I can't pull back a curtain and talk about things that haven't actually hit the market. I will tell you that we're continually improving each of the aspects of new products that we are making to ensure that we meet the industry requirements. So it's not a direct answer, but I can definitely tell you that we continually improve the products. The switches will also be improved as well.
Perfect. And Scott had another question. What is the RSSI of when you're doing a site survey for Wi-Fi 6 for 2.4 and 5?
Okay, so RSSI values per manufacturer are going to be specific to that manufacturer. So I avoid that question very specifically because if you watch the presentation, I specified up there that on snap1events.com, there's an archive of the Wi-Fi design I went through. There's two characteristics when specifying Wi-Fi. When you're specifying it and designing it, you're designing it off of very simple premises. In a multi-access point scenario, no client device can be 25 feet from an AP, period. No two APs can be greater than 40 feet apart line of sight. You try to get them around 35 feet line of sight, which correlates to about 1,350 square feet per AP. You always install your AP in the way it was designed and built to be installed, meaning the AP is mounted on the ceiling, dome down. You don't mount it on the wall, you don't mount it behind a TV, different things like that. Once you have that design from a 5 gig perspective, as you always design on 5 gig, then your design is done because you've got the number of APs, you can specify it. Look closely at, when I say line of sight, Wi-Fi is line of sight. So if there's something between you and the AP, it is interfering with the RF energy in one form or fashion. But that's your design side. When it comes to tailoring in the install, once it's installed, there are a number of things that each manufacturer of each access point will pinpoint as what their minimums are. Some give maximums. My experience from an integration firm is the minimum values are paramount, and they are for each manufacturer. So, you know, whether you're in Arachnus or Access, they're going to be different. But the maximums tend to be less important. And I've also found from doing all the site surveys within the Access Networks team, my team has been doing those for the last 6-7 years. When it comes down to, if you follow the design premises I just gave you, no device greater than 25 feet from an AP, no APs greater than 40 feet apart line of sight, design on 5 gig, all those things, you don't have problems. We do have some more questions. What we're going to do is we will document any of the different questions that are still on here. We will try to reach out to those people who've asked the questions. I really, really appreciate, you know, everyone's time for being here. Hopefully this is a screen you were looking for previously. I was kind of scanning through the notes. It seems like that was the one you were asking for. I hope it was. But anybody, you know, any of the other questions, we will attempt to reach out to you and get them answered. And overall, I wanted to thank everyone so much for being here. Let's see, do we have any parting comments from ESA? I am going to answer one more question that came up because this is one I get asked a lot. Should we be using higher bandwidth cable like Cat 7 or Cat 8? No. The residential 570, the ANSI TIA residential 570D wiring standard calls for category 6A2 to every device location, plus do coax, plus fiber. The reality is N-base T scenarios of 2.5 and 5 gig were developed to be able to use existing infrastructure on 5E and 6 up to 100 meters. 6A gives you 10 gig up to 100 meters. For the foreseeable future, there is no need to go any higher than that. In fact, 5E and 6 will probably, actually 6 will probably cover most everything you need. I typically wire access point locations with 1.6 and 1.6A because the 6 will cover 2.5, and 5 gig. It's easier to terminate, easier to certify. And if I need to go above that, the 6A is there to go up to 10 gig or potentially above if we get new N-base T electronics. So hopefully that answers that question as well. All right, and we are out of time.
Awesome. Yes. I know Daniela is having some technical issues, and Nathan, if you don't mind doing some parting goodbyes.
I'm happy to do that. Thank you guys. Thanks everyone for joining us. I really, really appreciate it. ESA is a great association to join for not only the benefits of helping drive industry standards, drive industry adoption and education, but really as a partner to help your voice have a nationwide effect and be able to support you in your individual markets. So if you're not currently members of ESA, definitely check it out. For those that are, please reach out and let us know if there's anything within ESA we can do to help increase our benefit for you. And when it comes to Snap One, I hope that you've seen some of our new products and that they meet the needs and some of the expectations you have, and continue to reach out to your sales personnel and let them introduce you to new products, services, and let them know if there's anything else you need, because we as a company are always looking to drive innovation to support our dealer partners and ultimately our customers.
Hey guys, I'm so sorry. My computer actually went dark. My screen just completely shut off for some reason, and I was trying to get it back on, which is why I couldn't see anything, but I was still on the call, and it was just really, really weird. But yes, thank you so much, Nathan, for just picking that up for me while I was struggling with this. Thank you so much to everybody that joined. Thank you, Nathan and Bobby, for your time and for such an incredible webinar. We will be posting this webinar as a YouTube video on ESA's YouTube channel. So if there's anything that you want to go and rewatch, you can definitely go check it out there. And thank you guys so much.